Contact!
How deep can you plunge into the darkness?
Through the dark veil of space, time.
I wish we could have joined you sooner.
This is Warp Chatter.
Time is short. There is much to be done.
The wait ends now.
All right, welcome back to the Warp Chatter podcast. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. We are still all-inclusive after more than, I don't know how many episodes we started being all-inclusive. Yeah, you know, we're on, this is episode 64, but I think the first 20 episodes,
5 episodes short.
We were specifically like, we're not going to be inclusive at all. And now we are, so. But this is the Warp Chatter podcast, the podcast dedicated to talking about the Horus Heresy Legion's digital card game, Horus Heresy lore, Warhammer 40,000, everything that encompasses. I am your host, Scuff D, and this is a podcast by players for players. With us today, we've got a couple players joining us for the discussion. We're going to be talking about a couple things, Traitor Titans. The Traitor Legios released to the game 2 days ago, yesterday morning. It'll be more than 2 days by the time you hear this episode.
It will be like 6 days by the time you hear this.
So we've got first takes on that, but also the balance patch for June, a surprise mid-month balance patch for June, kind of with some changes to Loyalist Titans and sweeping changes for the ordnance keyword. So we're going to be talking about that, but before we do, let's go ahead and introduce the folks who are joining us today. First off, we've got Gmat.
Hey, so I've been a decently long-time player for the game now. I think joined in 2020, I started playing, maybe December 2019, and my best friend got me into the game, the guy that I got into 40k with when we were, in middle school. And it's a fun game, and he doesn't play Legions anymore, but I'm still here.
That's fair.
The last time you were on was with Team USA in the World Cup last year. And the World Cup is going to be kicking off qualifiers, I think, next month. So
I am very excited for that, and I hope I make Team US again.
Yeah, same here.
Good luck.
All right. Also join us, we've got Pellucid. Pellucid?
Pellucid, correct.
All right.
I've been playing since right around when they released the first Loyalists. I found the game because I've always been a fan of like 40k games. I never played the tabletop, but I always found like, your Dawn of Wars and stuff interesting.
Some more than others.
Yeah. And I had been playing Hearthstone, and Hearthstone just went in a direction I hated. And I was like, okay, I gotta find a different game. And I thought, maybe there's a 40k game. And so I looked it up, and lo and behold, there was a 40k game. And especially when this game was in its youth, it had everything that I feel like Hearthstone moved away from. Like, your troops matter, your warlord choice makes a huge difference and stuff like that, whereas everything was starting to kind of feel the same in Hearthstone. So I was really happy to play this game, and I'm not as big into the lore as a lot of people are, but I follow it a little bit. I conversant enough. Yeah, glad to be here.
All right. Well, when you say the Legions moved away from stuff that Hearthstone, or was doing stuff that Hearthstone moved away from, rather, how do you feel about it now in its present state? I'm curious.
I actually kind of feel like it's moving a little bit. It's not as bad as Hearthstone, but I think it is moving in that same direction where, when I first started playing, you could play a troop that doesn't do anything. You could just drop it on the table, and there's a chance it would live till the next turn. It's less and less like that. I liked the idea of building a big board, a huge army, and, smashing heads against the other army, but it's a little bit more tactic focused now. It's not as bad as Hearthstone got. Hearthstone got to the point where you literally could not play a card, a minion card, that didn't have a rally effect or a death rattle effect. It had to do something immediately because it was going to die before your turn. So we're not quite there yet, but it does seem like it's moving in that direction, which makes me a little sad. But I feel like they're kind of trying to correct a little bit with the Legios. With high-statted troops and stuff like that.
Yeah. Legios, you can definitely see some troops popping up, but I still think, like... I mean, I plan on putting a fist-only Reaver that uses troops, but besides that, it's not going to be... It's still not big amount of troop-heavy.
I think that the presence of Titans does force everyone else to play more troops because bodies are more valuable than ever.
Right.
Like, definitely you could not afford to be like, well, I'll just answer troops and play troops when I need to. Like, now, like, if you're not going wide early to stun stuff, you're probably losing. And that's
a lot of the direct damage and removal that Legios have are conditional, or they'll have ordnance, or they'll be random. So you can't just say, "Oh, there's a threat, kill it immediately every turn," because you've got a lot of restrictions that prevent you from doing that. You have to.
You can get pretty damn close to it, though.
Yeah,
if you manage your stuff well.
Yeah, if you budget yourself and you manage your odds well, basically, you can do that. But it's not as easy as it. It's not as easy as just playing the card that kills everything every turn.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and to go with that too, also the setup for the Titans is different. You've got to prep your siege weapons, barring some tactics that load it for you automatically. So there is some delay. Whereas I think prior to the Titans release, it really was like, okay, like I can answer anything you play, and as a person who plays troops, we weren't quite 100% rally or backlash, but there was like, okay, I have to hope
moving in that direction.
It had to be very, very good troop if you were going to play it, and it didn't.
And there was so much
had to have ward or shield
that stuff.
Exactly, and there's so much board-wide answers, even still with or without Titans, that people still pack. Where it's like, well, it's hard to go board-wide because it just takes 1 or 2 card combo, and then your board's wiped out. But the way with those Titans introduced kind of like shifts, like, I mean, it'll be less likely to include multiple board-wide stuff because that will be less effective against Titans. And, so it lends itself into that whole meta of deck construction and people kind of evolving their play style. Say what you will about the Titans. We talked a little bit about this, I think, if not last week, the week before. But I think the Titans as a whole are... I don't want to say healthy for the game, but they are important to shift the meta. And that is something that I think has been happening in the last couple of weeks, especially now that there's more Titans added to the mix. The importance of getting those troops out early to stun weapons so they don't trigger or load or fire is pretty important. And then conversely, as a Titan, you can't just rely on tactics because you've got to plan for those mirror matches too and have troops to answer as well. So, yeah.
I found that in the event, frequently the player who puts down a troop that sticks on the board first is the one who wins. Even in the Titan mirror, it's.
You mean the loyal or the traitor one?
It probably I've only done a little bit of the traitor one so far, but the loyal one.
Yeah, definitely. Troops were super super important in the loyal one. In the traitor one, it's a lot less so. Mostly because of DSC and Nuntio. I think that I think that they're both very very strong warlords. And
let's get a laugh at Axel moment. When I first drafted my deck, I didn't check Dyes or Reese yet. I just assumed he was all the board. So I have no troops in the deck, and I still got like 8 wins with only 1 loss. I haven't ran it yet. So just saying, you can just play it like that if you want. It works.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that if for anyone out there who wants to play DSC in the event, you have to take troops for the mirror match where you go second.
Yes.
Like that is what you need them for. You really don't need them any other time if you draft a good deck. If you draft on stuns, like I have an event run right now, and I'm 8-1 right now, and I have 5 unstuns in the deck and 2 autoloaders, and it just wins. Yeah. If it goes first, it just wins, and it feels kind of gross. And if it goes second, depending on if I see Ravage City or Lord Malkiel or the autoloader, I just win anyway, but you need troops, ideally, so you can kind of catch up to the DSC Ray in the mirror. Well, on that note, on the subject of DSC Ray, I think it's actually, and I'm going to catch some flack here, it's almost balanced. It really is. I think it needs a nerf, but a much smaller nerf than the initial nerf that the Loyalists needed. And honestly, the Loyalist nerf didn't really touch the real issues. It touched like greedy stuff that some people used, but the missile launchers didn't get changed. Bellicosa didn't get changed. The fist didn't get changed.
I was honestly surprised when I saw Bellicosa wasn't changed.
Like, Bellicosa should have overload. There's no doubt in my mind that it shouldn't. Like, it deals 12 to face, and it only costs 3. Like, it should have overload. But Jesse Ray, I think, would honestly be balanced if its Plasma Annihilator only dealt 10 to Warlord instead of 12. Which sounds like a small nerf, but since you really only end up shooting face 1 to 2 times in a match, if your opponent is fighting back and killing your arm, like that extra 4 health is enough for them to really go the different distance later. And the other thing I think is that Wonders of Tizca should not unstun Titan weapons.
Yeah,
it just shouldn't. I honestly, it's disgusting.
I don't
to
disagree.
Do it from hand
because they need to have, and there's plenty. There's the Loyalists, I think, have got 1 less card that unstuns. I feel like the Traitors
actually they have 1
card.
more.
Do they?
Well, they have 1. It's the same, but they have a structure that does it repeatedly.
Okay, the structure, yeah.
But I mean, just Wonders. I think you could leave Pi Alpha even, but Wonders doing it from hand, like for 2 energy, is just too cheap. But every other Warlord needs unstun to cost 2.
I almost wonder.
I think 2 energy for me to be like, oh look, you spent your whole turn getting through shields and front lines to stun my loaded weapon, but I unstun it and shoot you and you lose.
I almost wonder if they should have just had a separate mechanic called reload that was basically just stun, but only on
or shutdown was its own state, like can't attack, that you can't remove. But I mean, they need something, and I think it's fine. Like 4 cards that will remove it in a deck, I think is manageable. But 6 is too many. Like I've been playing DSC Ray on ladder. I have an 82% win rate right now, and like, it's because I run 2 Pi Alpha, 2 Wonders of Tizca, and 2 of the rare Chaos Legio card that unstuns, Experimental Vessel.
Yeah.
Which is basically just Pi Alpha with a perk for awakened units. But
you don't do the 6 epic unstun?
Well, I don't have the 6 epic.
Okay, all right. If you did, would you play it?
I would run 1.
Okay.
Maybe. It costs so much that you can only unstun and shoot with the plasma.
Correct.
At 10 energy, and usually I'm killing people well before then.
The Survivor 2, I think, is a big boon for all your stuff.
It is.
Yeah, so that makes
it's used,
including your face.
Yeah.
Especially,
no, it's just Titan weapons. In the reveal, it was all your units, but now it's just your Warlord and Titan weapons.
Is that the yeah, that's what I said. Like your Warlord.
It says give Survivor 2 to Warlord and Titan.
No, it does. I'm saying it just doesn't. Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah. I said, and it's good, and it works on your Warlord too. It's not just your weapons. No,
yes. No, I misheard you.
If it was your troop too, that'd be too good.
Yes, it would.
I did say Warlord.
I mean, I think I might not use it just because of how much it costs. I might use 1.
I feel like it's a one-of. It's a very good card, though.
It's maybe, but I would honestly rather use like Path of Iron before I would use.
I think the Survivor 2 is better on Titans than it is on other cards, just because of the way Ordnance works. If you've got a weapon with 6 health left and you take Ordnance 16 damage or whatever, it still lives because you have Survivor. Whereas with other troops, it's you're not taking those huge chunks of damage all at once.
The Survivor definitely helps a lot. If you get it, but.
And with what it is at 6 energy, theoretically on 10 energy, if you have somehow your Plasma Annihilator is charged up, you haven't killed him yet, it's not dead, you can use it and unstun it.
No, and that's the situation I would want it for. I think I'm so sad because somehow I have DSC Ray and I don't have Nuntio yet. But
I want Nuntio simply so I can put each hand a goddamn claw and I can go stab some bitches.
I think Nuntio is going to be a fantastic control warlord with that ability.
I want to stab things.
I like the possibilities. I just haven't played anything other than Dice Ray right now because of the deck slot situation. But that's a whole different topic.
We need more deck slots.
We need like
That's the plot.
so many more. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, guys. But no, like they have a lot of like Nunzio's build, like with just all the different stunning options. Like you could just do a whole stun thing, and then they've got a better silent death. Like it's stun all troops.
I will disagree with you there. I had this argument on the MC server today. I don't think it's strictly better.
You don't think so?
I think that like people underestimate that a silent death you can use to stun stuff you deliberately don't damage later. Like if you don't hit their shoulders, like if you're just going face, a silent death will still stun their weapons.
Okay, I guess the only part I
like
see
in
that
a
it's
matchup
not
like with
better.
knights.
Well, if you're
let's
looking
say
at
where
like a
sometimes
mirror
they have
unit,
stupid healing, and then you're going to kill them in a big way, or you're like a control deck, like Miracle Alpha Legion. Maybe the enemy warlord isn't damaged, like especially early. The option to it can hit the warlord, like it's usually better, but it's not always better.
Like what situation can you think of where you wouldn't want one of your opponent's units to be stunned?
I think the only
No. I'm saying that a silent death can stun things that Portent of Doom can't.
But
the only
the
only
Warlord.
advantage I see it over is
And Titan
stun the
weapons.
Warlord and Titan weapons. But normally the Warlord takes damage before you need to stun.
That's niche, but it like Titan weapons. You know, right now with the stun and everything, we're always hitting them. Like there's definitely ways you can just go face, and I think like optimal Lucius play most of the time is to just go face and stun the Plasma Annihilator only, for example. And in that case, being able to pay 3 and stun the shoulders and the fist or whatever is something that Portent of Doom can't do. So it is a very good card. I am not saying it's a bad card. It's a great card. But I think it's a good example of design where it has a different niche than a Silent Death, and maybe that niche is a little broader and makes it more generally useful, but it's not always better every time.
Well, yeah,
I can think of
I think
very
it is
few
designed.
scenarios where
Yeah, I do think it's designed in mind
it's not
for
an
the
upgrade.
Titan versus Titan games, because that would
Yeah,
be
and
ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, and that's where it's, like where you're looking at it like, man, it sucks that this doesn't do shit in the mirror. Pardon my language, sorry.
No, we swear.
But then they also have Heedless Charge as the other go around for that. So
Well, Heedless Charge is amazing. It's a baby Lambda Thunderhawk, and I love Lambda Thunderhawk.
Well, it's baby Lambda with a side, because it doesn't stun what you hit.
No, it
Which
doesn't.
I think makes it really balanced, because if it did, that's kind of
If it did, it would be too good, honestly.
That's why I like it.
Yeah.
You can tell they thought about it. They're like, okay, we can't let them stun and deal 3 damage to a target and adjacent, so we got to separate that a bit.
Yeah.
Also, this episode's I'm gonna keel over before the end because we're getting Legio and Niche, and I'm a break. I mean, I'm a rebus, so I can't say much more. But holy,
you think we can come up with some other words? Like how do you pronounce Dice Irae?
DACA.
Ooh, okay.
No,
all right.
that sounds too.
Okay, here's a fun
I took
one.
Latin. I
How do you
know how to
pronounce
pronounce Latin.
How do you pronounce the 4-energy 3/5 front line of Chaos Legio?
I don't even know its name.
Okay, hang on. The 4-energy 3/5?
Yeah. Front line.
Oh, the front line.
That's
Zotolacity?
that's totally like a Mexican god or something.
Yeah, it's an Aztec thing, but
House
I
Melanex
can't do it.
Porphyrion. Oh my god.
Where is this fucker? Where is this?
Probably
man?
something like Shotalotli or something
There
like
you
that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure the X is Sho.
Showed a lot, let's see.
there are some, I mean there's some hard
I'm just
pronounce
gonna
stuff.
call him Axolotl from here on out.
Yeah, Axolotl.
No, let's
you
not
go.
talk about those.
Oh, they're amazing.
We
They're adorable.
Axolotl tanks are not
Zonlots.
amazing, man.
need
No,
an
that's about
Axolotl
those.
faction.
I'm talking about the little tiny salamanders from Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. We are talking about different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know axolotls as tiny little salamanders.
Maybe. I'm thinking of Dune. I'm sorry.
I mean, you're not wrong off. Aren't those the Dune tanks that reproduce, or am I thinking of a different one?
Well, yes, but no. Yes, they're basically
Yes, but actually,
they're basically the Demon Kulaba, but slightly turned down to 10 from 11.
They're not Demon no, they're Krieg. They're what Krieg originally was in early editions. That's what Krieg was.
I mean, it's
for
implied that they make them out of women.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's what Krieg was, 1 for 1. In old
Oh, yeah. Well,
But now it's been changed.
Sorry to make it go down the Dune rabbit hole, but yeah.
We've done this before. 40k is just a bunch of stolen things smashed together, and that's why we.
But it's unique because of that, and that's what makes it so great.
I think that's okay.
Yeah, they steal everything, smash it together, and then turn the volume up to 12.
Yes. No, exactly.
Yeah, and there's no pretense to that. Like that, out the gate. I think nowadays maybe if someone's coming in, they might not get it turned up to 12. They might get it just the standard 10 or 11. But early on, I mean, come on, chainswords. That alone, should be metal for you.
The chainswords, like, think about the pop culture interaction of chainswords was Gears of War, basically.
Yeah,
if you think about it.
Right.
And people lost their shit.
Yeah, they're like, how cool is that? You're like,
oh my
what?
god, I have a chainsaw on my gun, and I can cut them in half with it.
And then
you do this the whole game, even though it's harder.
You see that, and they're like, I'm this dude in Power Armor, and then you grab him and you pull him close, and you're like, have you heard of Warhammer?
Yeah.
Have you? You can get a whole faction.
No, like before people who didn't even know about Warhammer played that game were like, this is metal.
That's what
fuck.
I mean.
This
That's
is
what
so
you do.
Cool.
The 40k fans can then grab that person and teach them about 40k.
No, they can definitely, but it's just it was nuts to me because my cousin, who is not into anything that he would perceive as nerdy or he's that type of guy. He played this. He's like, George, you got to see this, and I'm like, yeah, this seems like 40k. That's really fucking cool. He's like, what? No, this is cool. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? Like 40k has this big dudes in super armor cutting shit in half with a chainsaw.
Yeah, you could slap a 40k skin on Gears of War.
Absolutely.
Like, just
honestly, you have a Space Marine game 1. That's about as good as Space Marine.
I was gonna say you can just get Space Marine 1. 2's coming out soon, boys.
2 will be next year, right? It's got to be 2023.
Yeah, it is.
The year that the captain comes back and we face some nids this time around. Should be interesting.
But he's a lieutenant now.
He crossed the Rubicon. He's a Primaris.
He's got the 4 studs on his forehead too, so he can do it for a while.
Yeah, no, the Chaos Titans. So they got. I mean, there's a lot with them going on, and we haven't even talked about the Awaken, which I feel like a lot was made about it. And it's really not. There's not a lot to it. I mean, like as a mechanic, there's like 50% chance that it'll attack on its own. And there's units that have Awaken. There's actually a lot of things that don't have Awaken. There's a lot of things that potentially could give Awaken, but those are totally optional if you're putting them in your deck or not. If you play them or not. I feel like Awaken was supposed to be this drawback. It was like a tier 3 drawback. You've got Sentinel, you've got Maintenance. Those are the worst 2 drawbacks in the game, and this was supposed to be drawback number 3. Like, potentially.
I guess Overload
is.
You
might
not have control of your stuff. Yeah, Overload is now Overload.
I would argue that Overload is barely a drawback. Because if you're suffering from the drawback, you already got value from the card.
Yeah, you've used it. But Awaken is just like it's milk and cookies. It doesn't do anything. It's not really relevant. It's not that it's not a drawback. It's just that it's not as existent enough. Whereas the Custodes have got a bunch of cards with Sentinel. Like almost all of their troops have Sentinel on it. So they have to deal with it. And this is, there's some Awakened troops, sure. None of them are really great that you're going to include in your deck if you have the choice.
I like the Reaver. He's totally not a Warhound.
I just feel
simply because he has Ward.
I
if he
feel
didn't have
like
Ward, he would be.
It's a missed opportunity. Like some of these weapons should just have Awaken on them automatically, and then you play with the option to remove Awaken versus some of these cards that remove Awaken. But if you're not even playing with Awaken in your deck, you don't even need those cards, and therefore you've reduced you've reduced the pool for what you actually want to use anyways. Yeah, I as far as like first impressions go with that, I've had a couple games where I played an Awakened troop. It hasn't ever been a big deal because it did what I wanted it to do anyways. And the one time it didn't, I was like, well, I was just testing out with it. I was like, okay, I won't do that again. Not a big deal. But it didn't feel like, like it was... didn't really feel like it was necessary, like at all. And I don't feel it when I'm making a deck. I actually have a Dice Array deck, 0 Awaken cards. 0 cards that do anything with Awaken. I don't even have to worry about it.
And like even if a card you wanted did have Awaken on it, I mean, how much worse would they need to be before you'd say, "Oh, darn, that Awakened is really what's holding it back. I'm not going to put it in my deck." You know, the 50% chance, like if it were a random action that they did instead of like a relatively calculated action, you know, like something dumb enough for the AI to do.
Yeah.
But if it were totally random, yeah, that would be a pretty big drawback. But because they do something that's kind of smart and it's only half the time, it might as well not even be a drawback half the time.
Yeah, not being true randomness is why I'm like, okay, Awaken's okay.
Yeah. And it's not like they I don't feel like they overstated things to give Awaken, whereas with the Loyalists, there were some cards that felt like they were overstated, but they had Overload, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't feel like we have that with the Chaos at all. We actually just thought
the Chaos stuff is just it's very fairly overstated. It's not nearly as nutty.
Like Ominous Reaper.
My favorite is a 2/3 that costs 1 energy.
Ominous Reaper is a 6/4 that has Awaken, but it has Terror and has Battle Honor, gains a Mark of Chaos. Like, what's the drawback? It has Terror, so it even has the potential to like Terror a troop, get a Mark of Chaos. Like,
My only problem is if the Awaken hits face. That's the only drawback, but I'm still dealing 6 damage to.
Yeah, you're still hidden for 6. You know.
Well, the other thing is that typically when the AI has a terror troop out and it sees that it can kill one of your troops without taking damage, it almost always does that.
Yeah,
no, it'll still go face unless it's a very big troop.
I've had him killed. They have to see the value.
I think we're losing
But
it.
Yeah.
More time, you're still going to get your value out of it.
I think that Awakened is kind of it's very meh as a drawback, and only a couple troops that have it are worth playing with.
Mhm.
And
I wonder if they'll put it on. I wonder if they'll put it on the Castellax in Mechanicum.
maybe. I mean, I think that like part of the thing about Awakened is it doesn't do anything on its own. Like it doesn't. The stuff that plays with it is not. It's not crazy as far as like playing with it. You know, I would really like it if Awaken was maybe more like when you gave it to a troop, it lost Overload. And that would be kind of cool.
And here's what I'm thinking. And granted, this is just all. I mean, we're just throwing out ideas. We're not actually doing anything, unfortunately. Which is because I really think what they should do, and this could be crazy. I'm going way back in time to original Fabius Bile, who could enhance a troop, and there was always a chance that he could stun the troop that he enhanced, as well as give them stat buffs. If we just removed shutdown and overload on things, and in their place for the Chaos Titans, just for the Chaos Titans, gave them Awakened, which then gave you a 50% chance that unit would be stunned at the start of your turn.
I almost feel like the way I'd handle it is I would make Awakened 100% of the time. The AI will always act with the unit, but then just rebalance things so that they're a little bit stronger, like overstat things a little bit.
I mean, the issue is that then they'll never trade. You know, optimally, I think that's unfun. Like that's just playing.
I mean, that would be a good idea, but at that point, I would just never put it on my weapons ever, which completely removes 2 of the legendaries from their card pool.
Well, see, and that's why I think
I want to.
It shouldn't be optional. I feel like it should be on not everything, but like on 90% of the options that you can include, or especially at least like 50% of the weapons. Like, so there are just some things that you're going to have to build to deal with, but as a result of having that, it's a little bit stronger. Like, for instance, let's say the Reaper's chainsword, right? Can't attack anymore after you attack with it, but it does have
Not a chainsword.
Yeah, it doesn't have overload, it doesn't have shutdown, it just has Awakened. That's it. Like, is that a fair trade-off?
Yeah.
I mean, no. Yes, maybe. It's like, it's hard. It's a 50% chance of having a drawback, which is like not always
right.
And it's not always
deal with.
It's also not always a drawback. You know, if you're against Angron or something, you're going to hit him in the face with your chain fist every turn. Like, why wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. You know, like, so it's not a drawback in that matchup. Like, oh no, it hit him in the face. That's what I was going to do anyway. So I think that doesn't, like, I think in certain situations that would be a good way to make it work. But I think that if you do it too broadly, you end up with situations where it's just not a drawback at all, and you've just got a really powerful card with no drawback on it.
Yeah, 'cause a lot of times it's just a Fox like drawback where it's like, oh no, I killed the troop that was bothering me. Oh, woe is me.
Well, yeah, I think just right now the way it is it's not even a drawback, but it's also not even necessary. Like it's just that's I think the big thing that bugs me, because there's a lot of like, oh, this is a new trait, this is going to be a thing. It is on things.
I feel like,
but it
I
really
mean, like
isn't.
a lot of their
it doesn't compare to Overload as as something that you play around and want to work with, like for so many reasons, right? Because first of all, like Overload, if I'm suffering from it, I got value. The troop, I played it and it stuck on the board, and then I got to do something with it. And that's why the 1 energy remove Overload card works, because you don't play it until the turn you would suffer from Overload, right?
Yeah.
You play it before you get to attack, and then you're like, look, no drawback for 1 energy.
Maybe
I feel like
to not suffer from Awaken, you've got to remove it the turn you give it to it. Yeah. But then that's iffy because maybe it, gets messed up on its next turn, and that's why the only Awaken cards I think are really worth using is what's it called? Crap. The 8/9 with flank Denova.
Yes.
Denola.
Yes.
Yeah.
That card's amazing because by the time you're suffering from Awaken, you don't care.
Yeah,
it already came in and hit what you wanted.
He
maybe it goes face. Maybe they remove it. Maybe it doesn't get awakened, and you get to trade it into something. It's all value.
And that's kind of part of the reason I like the idea of making the Awakened trigger more often, because then you can balance around assuming that Awakened is going to happen. And I'm talking about as a designer, not as a
What I think would be better is a lot of their auto-include cards just slap on and it gives Awaken.
No.
Well, if the problem is not enough Awaken, that'd be the immediate solution.
I think,
but even then, Awaken just doesn't exist.
There are a couple things that like give Awakened as like there's a couple boost enhanced cards. Maybe I think the problem with it is the idea of it comboing with Awaken or doing something with well, there's Bloodthirst. There's there's a bunch that actually give.
That card is fantastic.
Yeah,
that card is great. Just you don't give Awaken to your expensive weapon.
To the late.
You give it to your 1 energy shoulder.
Right. Yep.
No, even then, like giving Bloodthirst doesn't really do anything for like the Plasma Annihilator because of Overload, and it costs too much energy.
It'll be stunned. You'll never be able to.
If it's an emergency, you give it to the Gatling so you can from nowhere load and shoot. And in general, though, I think it's in event. I don't have the card for ladder yet, but in event, that card is amazing on the Volcano Cannon, right? Yeah. Inferno Gun, whatever it's called. The DSUA, like 1 energy siege up, deal 2 and 1 to everything else. Shooting that every turn it is fine. And even if the AI messes up, sometimes it's like, I'll put 2 damage on face. You're still like, well, it cracked every shield, did its job. And same with like, once I get Nuntio, I would put that on one of the shoulders so it could shoot every turn.
Bear with me, claws.
I would even put that on the Quake Cannon just because it still stuns the things next to it and only costs 2.
I wonder what would happen if you played Creeping Madness on Castellax. Would it be Awakened and use the AI to attack, or would it still do its old thing where it just attacks at random?
I think it would just attack.
I think it would still just attack.
Well, it still doesn't attack at random because it still uses the AI.
I mean, everything isn't random. It's still AI determined. Everything that says by itself has an algorithm. It's just Castellax is a lower attack, so it's like for example, Abominable Intelligence and the Iron Circle, their attack is so high that they're just always going to prioritize going face because it's so rare for it to like be worth killing something. Mm-hmm. Like they won't miss lethal, they go face. Like in rare occasions, they will account for like if your face has shield and they can kill a troop, which is interesting. It doesn't happen often though. Usually they will prioritize face so hard that if you shield up, they'll just hit your face and crack the shield, and you're like, "That's nice, cool." And obviously, if your board is alone, they do that, so that's already a drawback.
And troops with terror that have act on its own.
Like fun fact, I did some testing with Creeping Madness in event. If you give Awakened to the Reaver will use its ability like in not optimal ways. But if you give it the Chaos Reaver, Hatred Unbound.
The Warlord. Oh, you might give it to your Warlord itself. I was like,
if you give your Warlord Awakened. But
Does it give it to its own
Yeah,
face?
it gives it. You get. Well, it'll give it to its face or to its arm, but like not in a way that you want.
Yeah, okay. That's funny.
But if you give it to Nuntio, and I mean maybe this was just highly improbable odds, but I got up to like 11 attack because I had decked out and my last card was Creeping Madness, and like over like 6 turns, 7 turns, not once did it use Nuntio's ability. So I think maybe the AI just doesn't know how to do it, so it never does it. But like they had exactly one troop, and it was a troop I wanted to stun anyway, but it was very like it never did it for me. I did it.
Maybe it was maybe it looked at it and went, that doesn't have enough value to stun. Even if it had a lot.
I don't know. But
well, I think
I kind of wish that the chaos weapons, or at least the chaos warlords, for this had like the same mechanic or not mechanic as Canis. Like Canis's face can't attack not because it has can't attack, but because it has 0 attack. And I want to give Awaken to my face and then start headbutting stuff.
Yeah.
I want to start slapping things with my plasma gun. Come on.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
and if it punches, it doesn't shoot, and then we would have a good drawback for Awakened. / Fringe, like, oh, you think I can't hurt you because I'm not sieged up? Take 1 damage.
Hold on, I'm gonna hit you with this church I have on my back real quick.
Exactly.
Bonk.
Well, looking at the cards here, I think the idea of having Awakened units was to be like, okay, they're awakened and now you can do more things with them. But there's like 2 cards that do stuff with Awakened units. One gives a shield if it's awakened, and one gives ward if it's awakened. And then you've got a couple troops that like do something if a unit becomes awakened.
You give stuff awakened. But
there's also 2 damage
aren't there.
It's not enough.
Yeah, I feel like the only reason you'd want to be handing out Awakened most of the time is if you have Banelash in play.
Yeah, you want to buff Banelash, and you want to and Bloodthirst on the 1 energy shoulder, and that's it. And I do think that the what's it called, Hand of Ruin, 6 energy, 7/6 ward Terror Awakened. I think that is playable.
Just because it has ward.
Great, but just because of ward and because maybe it goes how you want.
Yeah, almost anything that has ward is playable.
Exactly. So I think that is going to be playable maybe in Nuntio, definitely in the Reaver. Even then, it's not great. Like, it's just so very, very not great.
At least with Hand of Ruin, the cost being 6 lets you do other things.
Hand of Ruin is actually overstated for its cost. That's the other thing. Like, all the Overload troops for Chaos are so barely overstated, it feels like they aren't, right? Like, like the 4 energy 3/5, like, that's not overstated at all. It has Frontline, so that's maybe overstated. It has a good ability, so maybe, but the Overload just hurts.
Just tanks it. So you're like, okay, I mean, sure, it's a Frontline, so if it's stunned, it'll still be a Frontline, but
it also has an active, so just earlier as you playing event, I used its active. I was like, oh, it has Overload. I didn't even notice.
It's a really good active. I will say that it's a really good active.
If the active said like deal 3 damage and doesn't overload, then it would be.
I mean, but it has ordnance too. So the fact that it shoots for 5 to like, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, the other one isn't there one that does like a board wide with overload, right?
Yeah, that one's good in event.
I like that one.
That's the 5/7 round.
Yeah.
I use that for shield popping 9 out of 10 times.
No, the one in event, the Curse of Iron, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
It's actually decent because it's 3 energy to shoot direct measures, so it's 2 damage and ordnance 2. So it chews Titans and vehicles apart really nicely. But like for me, part of it, the issue is that the Loyalists got some crazy troops with Overload, right? Like, and some of their Overload troops were not good, and we just kind of forget about them. But for me, the benchmark for Overload is like Knight Lancer and Steel Claw, which are just bonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to go with it too, one thing that I've noticed is there seems to be a lot less shield in the Traitor Titans compared to the Loyalists. Loyalists are like shield and fire, and there's like 2 troops that have got shield, but you do have Dice RA who can hand out 2 shields, and it's not just weapons,
I mean, I think it's comparable. I think honestly the Traitors have a better shield tactic than the Loyalists. The Loyalists have the 2 energy shield and reflection,
Yeah.
And that's just kind of crap, even though it can go on face. I like the Traitor one better, even though it gives Awaken, just because it can give your vehicles shield before they punch something, and that's like really good.
And then Awaken doesn't even matter because it's only happening next turn.
Well, that and
Exactly.
it also has shield, so if it does run into anything, it won't die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Unless they pop it.
but the 4 energy gives shield to all is so good, especially because again it'll shield your front line.
Mhm.
I keep misplaying because I keep thinking like there's no way it gives shield to all. It's definitely just Titan weapons and Warlord, right?
Nope.
And I keep like playing that and then playing my 4 energy front line, and I'm like, no, wait, this would have been good.
It's impregnable to all. They also have direct measures, which is
It's
annoying.
a great card.
Yeah. Yeah, board wide
It's a very good
2,
card.
it kills Voraxes or any other little vehicles at 4 health, and then you can follow that up with some missile launchers to basically wipe most 5 health vehicles. That's not too bad.
And it doesn't have random damage numbers like half of our.
I mean, it's much less broken than Death Pulse. I will admit that, but I like it much better than Death Pulse because it's not random.
Yeah, it's a set value, and it's not overpriced. I mean, for 4 energy, it's a fair price.
It's very comparable to stuff like the World Eaters, No Survivors.
Mm-hmm.
No survivors if they're vehicles. Particularly, they get punished.
No vehicle survivors.
Rip my homie Proctor. You had a chance during the other Titans to be niche, but now you've been shot in the knee.
No, yeah, that's well, and I think that's.
I used to be an adventurer like you.
Yeah, that leads
into
the next pseudo topic, or ties in really, is the balance patch that we got this week as well. Because we got some interesting stuff here with the balance patch with a sweeping change to ordnance. I guess kind of like adding ordnance to a bunch of cards, but there's also some other patchy McPatch things. So I'll read through the list. Let's just do this. I'll read through the whole list as a whole, so we've got it all, and then we can kind of talk about everything, because it's not just ordnance changes. There are some other things here that got changed, particularly with the Loyalist Legios, I should clarify. Sol Nibirin, first off, top offender. His ability no longer lowers the cost. He just chooses a troop and draws it for 1. Lorgar's Whispers got better. They increased in cost, but the cost that's reduced was also increased, so he can actually achieve it a little bit easier with less units on the board. Loyalist Legios, the Warlord Titan Sabris Regnum's ability went from 1 energy to 2. That's to give a shield to a friendly warlord, like warlord or your weapon. I believe. I don't think you give it to a unit. The Reaver and the Warlord weapons for the Loyalist Legios all dropped from 25 to 20. The Warlord Titan Macro Gatling no longer does damage 2 to 4. Instead, it's just 2 to 3. The Reaver Titan Turbo Laser and Laser Blaster each shot chooses a random target independently instead of all going to a single target. So you can spread damage a little bit more. The Warmaster Titan Laser Destructor, each shot chooses independently instead of going to a single target. Munition Silo's health is lowered to 3 from 4. Prometheum Depot costs 1 now to use instead of 0. Omnissiah's Grace no longer has shield. Display of Might no longer draws a card. That's the one that can't attack to the enemy board.
But let me add one there. Sorry, I know they forgot it from the list. Burden of Loyalty doesn't draw a card anymore.
Oh, did they remove
Burden of Duty, whatever it's called. The 2 energy give frontline to a unit does not draw a card anymore.
Did that ever draw a card?
Yeah, it was really good. It used to be 2 energy give frontline, draw a card.
Oh, okay. But it's still good.
Now it doesn't draw it anymore. It's still good,
but
because of how they work. But
the tutoring, I don't think was the draws. I should say the cantrip wasn't necessary. Avatar of the Omnissiah lowers the healing from 5 to 3. So that's some significant changes to the Loyalist Legios, and I can't say that those are all unnecessary. But then you throw on top of that massive ordnance changes, and some of these are cards that make sense or had similar effects. Now that we have the keyword ordnance, which means additional damage to vehicles or Titan weapons, Crack Grenade has its description upgraded, for instance, just to be Ordnance 3 instead of deals 3 additional to a vehicle or Titan weapon. Mechanicum has got the Neuroscythanator, now has Ordnance 3. Nagahile gains an Ordnance 3. Fate's Death gains Ordnance 3. The Punisher gains Ordnance 5. Vengeful Spirit, though, gains Ordnance 4.
Punisher playable?
Maybe. Probably the Emperor.
Press X to doubt.
Yeah, it gets Ordnance 4. Most of the flagship legendaries got Ordnance 4. Gerzalt Squad for the Death Guard, which finally... This was they never changed this ability description, which actually was supposed to deal more damage to Titan weapons, but now they actually do for 4 energy. They deal 3 damage to an enemy with Ordnance 5, so that's 8 damage to a Titan weapon or a vehicle. The Rapier Laser has Ordnance 4. Roth Squad has Ordnance 3. Corvan Squad for the Iron Hands has Ordnance 2. Ferrum gets Ordnance 3, which includes the adjacent units. Salamanders has the Abraxas gains Ordnance 4. I don't think anybody's ever going to play that anyways, but nice try. Vane Squad has Ordnance 3. Space Wolves, Long Fangs get Ordnance 2. Iron Warriors Precision Bombardment gets Ordnance 2.
Yeah,
Conchador
that
gets
was a big one.
Yeah, Conchador gets Ordnance 3. Rack and Ruin doesn't get Ordnance. It just updated the description to just give the additional damage.
It got nerfed.
Yeah, Ordnance
it got
10
hard
basically.
nerfed, and I'm so upset.
Custodes have the Adsultan, now has Ordnance 3. The Grav Tank has Ordnance 4. Both those units will never be used. Heavy support for the Word Bearers, the Bargatol Heavy support has Ordnance 3. Camille has Ordnance 3. Petronius Heavy support for the Ultramarines has Ordnance 2. Myatis Cruiser has Ordnance 3. Mycraig's Honor has Ordnance 4. Blood Angels Bloodwake, which is something that doesn't get used enough, but I like it when I see it played. Now gets actually its rally is completely changed to just deal 2 damage Ordnance 3 because I think it was random, or just deal 5 damage to an enemy vehicle.
Which was
Bloodwake?
Blood Angels.
There was the Blood Angels
Bloodwake
Predator.
was 5 to a vehicle structure or Titan
So
weapon.
now it actually gets standard damage to troops.
Wow.
Yeah, or face.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Defenders of
I would say it's
Caliban's.
now possibly playable.
Yeah, Defenders of Caliban's Brand of Fire gains Ordnance 2. The Osrex support squad for the Imperial Fist has Ordnance 2. The Agathon Falchion has Ordnance 4. And last but not least, Silver Sisters of Silence. The Silver Osprey rally damages deals 2 Ordnance 3. So, that's a lot. That's a lot of ordinances, some more impressive than others, as well as the Loyalist Legios. So I've gone on about what the changes are. I want to hear you guys' takes in general.
Okay. So we're going to go from Titans and just say Ordnance was a thing, except Rack and Ruin's now slightly worse?
Well, Rack is a lot worse. A lot of other things are a lot better, and this means that every vehicle in the game has been nerfed.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the Titan ones, which I really don't like. But
I feel like the solution for Rack would be make Ordnance a 2-stage thing, but then that'd be way too good in some matchups. For example, the board wide would be the board wide 2 damage to Ordnance would suck if you use Shield, because then it's still dealing 2 wide.
Yeah, or I mean,
so
I wanted Ordnance to be 2-stage to begin with, and maybe Ordnance could change to be just Titan weapons then, and not vehicles. But it's hard.
They could just rewrite it so that it says deals 4 damage and then Ordnance 10.
Well, okay, yeah, that might be it, but then they would just have no point for the keyword, and EG really likes their keywords once they introduce them. For example, Resolution got it. Everything that was the old end of turn got Resolution, even if it didn't make sense. Like that one Mechanicum robot.
Yeah, which actually I liked that change because so many
it was a buff.
Yeah, and it needed it. Like a lot of these old troops really need a buff. And if they had done all this ordnance stuff and buffed a bunch of the vehicles at the same time, I think it would have been great for the game. If all the Predator tanks were a lot stronger, but also they had to deal with ordnance now.
Yeah.
But that would be a big undertaking.
But yeah, my point in that was they'll change a keyword on something even if it equals a buff or a nerf. So I don't think we'll get a Rack and Ruin change anytime soon. No. More importantly, the actual changes. Stall died.
Yeah, Saul got kneecapped in a way that I'm happy about, but
I'm just
I
happy
think was
that
too much.
he can be buffed in the future, which is why I'm happy he's dead now. That's not exactly a great way to see balance, but holy shit, was Saul a problem.
Yes.
Yeah, now he's just
he's a tutor.
can't-
That's it.
Yeah, not a very good one.
I mean, he's good at getting the cards you need, but at
Right, but
30
he's-
HP and a neutral, that's not what you want.
he's stuck in neutral. Like if he weren't in neutral, if you weren't stuck with the neutral card pool, he'd be really good still. But neutral card pool just not very good, especially for troops.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I think the thing with the Sol Nibirin patch, it's important to note that it was almost exactly, it was 30 days or 31 days from when he went on sale when they nerfed him, which is what I said when he went out for sale, that it wouldn't be at least a month before we see any changes. Every guild, when they sell a card, they don't nerf it right away because they just sold it. And it's not great, in fact, that they nerfed it at all after selling it. It should have been fixed before they put it on sale. But it is what it is. That's their business practice. Yeah. It's not the first time they've done that. It won't be the second. It won't be the last time that.
I do think it's one of the most egregious times, though. Like, I feel like even if you're a very new player who doesn't really understand the game very well, the way that Saul originally worked, you would look at it and be like, "Holy crap, that's really good!" You know, like even if you didn't know what you were doing, that still looked overpowered.
Yeah, compared to
a lot of the other times where they released something that was clearly overtuned, it wasn't like just this blatant, like, okay, yeah, come on, kind of.
I still can't believe he launched with 35 HP in event. Like,
well, no, his first time in event he had 30, and then they were like, "We really want him to win this event, so we'll give him 35."
I don't think he was buffed to 35. I think what was his first event he was in?
He was in the event like a while before the one where he showed up again and then was the reward. I forget which one it was. I think it was like the riot at Blackgate or something. Maybe that's the one he was in, and he was in one a long time ago, and we were like, "Wow, that's a nutty warlord." So glad it's not on ladder. Surprise!
Little did you know.
Ironically, like way back in the day, who was it? It's let's see, the Thousand Suns guy, Amon. Yeah, when Amon first was in event, I was like, oh god, this is BS, and I never want to see this. And now it's so tame in comparison to a lot of other things.
Just copying a card from your hand, you're like, okay, that's nothing compared to what the game has done now.
Yeah, but yeah, like back in the day, like when I first saw that, I was like, if they add this to the game, I quit. But by the time they added him to the game, I was like, oh, okay, it's not that bad anymore.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's funny you mention that, because for me, and it's going back to the ordnance thing, but I really feel like this first wave of ordnance changes, adding it onto everything, and even having it on the Legio stuff to some degree, not necessarily the Loyalist Titans, but like the Traitor Titans, it feels a lot like Psyker Day 1, where everything had too much of it. And I don't disagree with some of the cards that already had, like Crack Grenade, things that already did additional damage to vehicles anyways. That's what they already had. But a lot of these, like Ordnance 3, Ordnance 2, Ordnance 4, that's a lot. And yes,
it's nutty.
What's the justification if we're lowering weapons where they can be one-shotted almost? By the time somebody plays Vengeful Spirit at 8 energy, they should be able to, if they're not one-shotting the weapon that was going to end the game, then they're hitting you in the face for 8 and winning the game. Like 12 damage, is that necessary for 8?
I mean, I think giving it to the flagships is more like a gesture than anything. I don't think it's really going to be relevant that often. But then you've already killed Bellicosa and stabilized, or
some of these cards,
if you're pointing at Bellicosa, you're probably losing because everything else will kill you.
Yeah, some of these cards are individual. Most of them, I should say. Most of these are individual targeting cards. But then you do have cards like Ferrum, you do have cards like Camille that are splash, and they're heavy splash.
It boggles my mind that you would give it to Ferrum and Camille just because, like Crack Grenade is fine because when it doesn't have Ordnance, it's mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
Listen,
right?
Give it to Destiny.
3 energy deal 2 is severely overcosted.
Yeah.
3 energy deal 5 is a little bit undercosted. And that's cool. That's the trade-off. But like Camille is already a fantastic card that just is backbreaking in some matchups. Right? Ferrum is a fantastic card that's just backbreaking sometimes. And Ferrum getting ordnance, especially, I think, is bad for the game in the long run because it takes away weaknesses from Santar. Because before, you'd be like, oh, Santar has hard time with vehicles. So you play vehicle, he can't Warlord power it, he has to do something. But now he goes face with this, and it still hits a vehicle for 5.
I kind of feel like with precision bombardment, that card's really good.
Yes, it did not need it. Yeah, I play a lot of Kroger, and I'm sitting here like, yeah, I have no problem killing 5 health vehicles as it is.
Yeah.
Like now you're going to tell me kill it for free. Like that's just it's already an efficiently costed burn spell in general.
They really should have limited it to spells that were kind of just not used that much.
I mean, what I would have loved to see is if ordnance wasn't just on abilities. If you could just give ordnance to a troop, and it was like when it punches it does extra damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that would be a great thing, like the way the sappers work. I mean, they're older card.
Oh man!
If
can we give the sappers ordnance 10?
It,
sappers ordnance 10. Let's do it.
Something. I like that one has destroy, but something like that. Like give tanks ordnance, so when they punch each other, they punch extra hard or something. Yeah. I don't know, but
I don't know with the way they set up ordnance if they could add it to a melee, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Well, he's saying that he wishes that they had done that to begin.
No, but I mean, I don't think it could be programmed that way easily without them just having a stroke. Because we got to remember,
it would have to be
G codes.
Yeah, that's
it
true.
would likely have to be something else. I mean,
to be fair, they could do something similar to what is it, Oath of Vengeance, where after it deals damage, it deals damage.
Yeah, well, again, that would make it 2-stage, and that would be great because it would go through shield, and we wouldn't have to turn Rack and Ruin into just Rack.
Yeah. Rack, and that's it.
I love how we were like, here's the patch of things are good at killing vehicles. We took the card in the game that was the best at killing vehicles and the most fun, and we made it the worst one.
Well, and that's just it. This whole patch, and I wouldn't say vehicles are dead. You can still play vehicles, and I think as Titans, you're probably still going to play a few vehicles. But
you have to. All your faction troops are
right,
vehicles,
especially some of the very useful ones. But there really is. It really makes it why would you play a vehicle right now? It's very year 1, year 2 of the game where vehicles were a super liability risk because there was so many things that just straight removed them, dealt with them, bounced them. There was just it wasn't worth it. It was why play a vehicle because it's just going to get destroyed.
And I think that it's still like vehicles, especially now, they really have to have a rally. It's kind of sad when before recent patches. If you ask me, what do you think the best vehicle in the game is? I would say the Dark Angels Ravenwing tank.
Mm.
A 6 energy 7/5 that deals 5 when it shows up. That's amazing.
Yep.
Remove it.
And then it goes
okay.
It's shot hexagrammaton, though, so
but now it's kind of
bounce it back,
and then it comes back. Yeah, I played Lion for a long time on ladder. I played Lion in World Cup. It was great, but now I'm kind of it dies to everything, right? So the rally is kind of 6 energy, deal 5, and take a card from my opponent.
It dies to a single precision bombardment, so it doesn't even take a card from your opponent.
Or to most board wipe now, right? Now, Santar points Ferrum at my face, and it still dies.
Yep.
In that matchup. Or direct measures. Titan says, that's cool. You have a board, I want to wipe your board and your tank while I do it. Shoulders and direct measures.
Yep.
And that's okay, but it's kind of not, because I feel like vehicles were really balanced around Crack Grenade for a while. Mm-hmm. I wasn't here as long as some of you guys, but I really perceived that kind of the vehicle bar was they have 5 health, and maybe they have 5 health a little bit early, but that's because they die for 3 energy when they have 5 health.
Well, I think that was
even if no bringing Crack Grenade out.
That was the standard. Was 5 health for a vehicle was typically, granted, unless it was an 8 cost and above. Maybe a 7 cost.
Everything 5 or 6 energy
was
it's
health.
High attack but 5 health. Right. So
exactly.
All the predators tend to be 7/5 for 6, or
I just expect that we will. I expect. I imagine. I think we'll see a scale back of the ordnance at some point. I don't know how soon, because obviously we still have got people to adjust with the Traitor Legios. We've got the third wave of this Titan Death expansion to hit. But I do feel like it just was a little bit high, and I could see a lot of these getting, drop back 1 or 2 ordnance damage pips, and maybe a couple cards gaining ordnance 1.
Ordnance 1 would be plenty for stuff that's already good. Like, I looked at the Camille change, and I was like, all right, he's already gone, but Kemba Diaz is crying.
Yes. Yeah, because it's
like, I would like to deal 7 to your one thing, and 5 to the rest of your board, and also 2 to your face.
Doesn't matter that you have Bastion 8 on it? Okay, because this has got Ordnance 7, so, God, it's brutal. And that's fine. Yeah. I mean, every deck has got...
I like beating the dead horse at his DS.
But just the same, like, I do feel like it's something where it's a big thing to get it on there. I'm glad that they made the keyword on cards that needed it, because they were getting it. I was surprised about all the cards that got it in addition to. And I do think that at some point we'll see that volume go down a little bit, because everything here, like Helios Mortar Carrier, Doombringer, what's the point? Some of the stuff.
Those will get ordnance.
Yeah. Let's give Doombringer end of turn, deal 2, Ordnance 3. Let's do that.
Let's give Deathbringer Ordnance 4. Fuck it.
Let's get crazy with it. Let's get crazy. You want to get nuts?
No. I disagree. I've changed my mind. I've completely 180'd in a 10-second time span.
You want to get nuts and now you don't? That's okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
I understand. Yeah, so
gotta respect.
As a whole, any other thoughts on the balance patch? How would you guys rate it on a scale of 1 to 10?
I don't think I can really give it a number, because I'm just looking at this, I'm like, okay. The ordinance changes, a lot of it were like, a lot of the unplayed cards are going to remain unplayed. The ones that were already really good are still going to be played. I guess the only thing I look at this, I'm like, hey, look, Lorgar Whispers is possible now. They just can't decide on whether or not they want it impossible or possible, and it makes me laugh every time. Because one update, it's like, you can't get Whispers anymore, and you're like, okay, EG. And the next update, they're like, okay, maybe you can get Whispers again. And you're like, okay, EG. And then they update again, it's like, everyone gets Whispers for breathing. And you're like, okay. And it just keeps repeating in an endless circle, and you never know where it's going to be at the end of the year.
You know why?
Why, Scuff?
Because it's chaos, baby. Come on.
God damn it. I knew I was going to go in not enjoying the answer. I mean, it's fitting.
They're LARPing over there in the Evergreen office. That they LARP and they role play a little bit too much.
I'd give it a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I was thinking like about a 6.
I think that like Saul needed to be cut down. I think that they overcompensated with Saul, and it's very interesting, like the timing here, just because I think that a balance patch, like when stuff is this rampant in the middle of the season, is kind of messed up. I mean, okay, like I want to give a shout out to Shaqrak from Masterclass. Like, he's my lodge mate. He's an awesome dude. I have a lot of respect for him, and he is sitting at the top of the ladder at 5,500 points, and we are just over 2 weeks into the season because Titans were busted, and Loyalist Titans are still busted. I mean, they're still very, very strong. I think that they did not touch the fundamental issues with the faction. I think that they did a good thing in that they raised the skill cap of the faction, and they by cutting off draw card from cards, they made it a lot less likely that you're going to top deck your way to, oh look, I found my unstun, now I win with Bellicosa. But I don't think he has to play the rest of the month for War Master. And this is an exceptional situation. It's a combination of how good a player he is and how broken Titans were, but I think that's kind of demoralizing for Ladder. And I think that they didn't touch the real issues with Titans, but it helped. I don't think they touched the real issues, and I think that they maybe overcorrected with some things with Chaos before releasing them. But even then, I do think that like Chaos Titans are broken too. I think that they need a little bit of a love tap if we wanted them to be balanced. But I
think they're kind of hoping that all this adding ordnance to stuff will be that tap, but I'm not sure if it really will.
I don't think it is. Especially like I really think you just need you need to make it harder for Titans to kill from hand with unstun, and you need to make them have to have more of a plan than like, if I unstun my big gun 3 times in a match, I will just win.
Yes. Yep.
I think that and I'm saying this as someone using DSC Ray on ladder, but like it feels bad that I bring 6 unstuns, and I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna load it with a tactic, and then I'm gonna shoot on curve, and then I'm gonna unstun it to load it again, and then you stun it, but I'm gonna unstun it and shoot, and it's stunned from overload, but I'm gonna unstun it and load it again. And you're going to stun it, and I'm going to unstun it and shoot. And, like, you did your counterplay. Like, not every deck can bring 2 Alaxis Nebula and have them on time, and it only buys you 1 turn, right?
Yep.
Like, if you play it, I just don't unstun, and I still have it in my hand. So, I really think that, like, just making at least wonders, not, and just wonders, just because it costs 2, and it comes out too early. Just make wonders, not unstun Titan weapons, will do wonders for balance of both Loyalist and Chaos Titan.
Yeah, I think Wonders of Tizca as a tactic, like Pi Alpha makes sense because it's a Mechanicum card and it's a troop, and especially with the big Titans like that, you have 2 troop slots.
That's a drawback. You might not be able to play it.
Yes.
Or while it's down, you might not be able to play something else, and that's good. That is a good thing. I mean, I would still argue that, like, Pi Alpha's fine because then they would each have kind of like 2 cheap cards ish to unstun their stuff.
3 energy, to unstun.
3, like Chaos would have 2 3 energy cards, and Loyalist would have a 3 and a 4, and they'd also have a structure if it sticks that unstuns for 2, which I don't think is playable, but it's there if you want it. And anyway, the Loyalist big guns are all cheaper than DSC Ray. Like, they are
cheaper, although now they've got a lot. They've got like 15 less health, so there is that.
I think that that's the other thing. I think the Reaver weapons should go back to 25 HP.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be fine. Like let the Reavers have HP, and let the Warlords, like, they have the ability to shield or stun stuff, so their arms can kind of be lower. But like, I think that the Chaos Reaver is just a sad, sad boy with, oh look, I have a fist and I can't remove overload, and it starts with 20 HP. Guess I'll die.
Big sad.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this balance patch a 5 as well, because I feel like the Sol change that was expected. That's like, the obvious cookie. Lorgar, nobody cares. I don't care if you care about
I care.
No, I'm sorry. I don't care if you care about Lorgar. You're not going to go out and play Lorgar. Nobody was playing Lorgar. Nobody was complaining about Lorgar enough that this really mattered. It didn't even matter when he got nerfed.
I know a couple people. It mattered to me. Nah. I was playing Lorgar when he got nerfed.
I wanted to play Lorgar, but
it doesn't matter.
You can't hit me with a nah.
It doesn't matter,
I'm not going to play him in this meta, but...
No, but that's just it. Like, it was like, hey, we did something that, here's an obvious fix. Okay, cool, thanks.
Like a lot of this was we nerfed the Legios and we nerfed Sol, and also Lorgar got changed.
Yeah.
What? No, nothing.
Loyalist Legios, like, I don't think any of these changes are bad. A lot of, like, the losing the card draw, the munition silo, if you play it turn 1, was a pain if your opponent didn't have an immediate answer, because you could load your Bellicosa and get going. I feel like there's still like 1 or 2 troops that could be adjusted just slightly. I feel like the ordnance stuff most of it was obvious, like, okay, but then there's some of it was just like, what? Like I said, like, I just feel like it just went a little bit too far beyond. It's a lot of cards. There's like 30 something odd cards that got adjusted, whether or not it's just a change of a keyword or not. That's a lot, but for a lot, it really isn't a lot that matters. And what matters?
And actually, they nerfed 2 cards. Yeah. In the process of this, they nerfed Silver Osprey and Rack and Ruin, and that just feels bad. Like,
honestly, the only card that I look at that is one that I think went from never play to maybe in some really niche circumstances play is I do think that the Ad Sultan was almost playable and I think it's for the Custodes, just because it was a really big body and it didn't cost all of your energy, and if you were playing against somebody who you could just snipe that, go face, that was pretty good.
Still way too niche. I feel like the one that got out here happier was the Blood Angel tank, because now we can at least damage a warlord with it.
Well, again, the Blood Angel tank is awesome, except that now ordnance got added everywhere else, so it's not.
It dies too fast.
But like, I think if you just had that change before ordnance, you'd all of a sudden start seeing it in like Raldoron, and that would be really cool.
Yes. Yep.
At least he can now damage something. He can trade into its own kind with its rally. See, that's value right there.
See, now you're thinking like you're thinking like a word bearer. Like, that's not the Blood Angel.
Exactly.
Get out of here. Get out of here, bro.
I like killing my. Listen, everything is disposable 100% of the time.
I'm gonna toot my my chaos horn. That was one thing I didn't get to mention here.
Oh yeah.
I shared it with you guys.
Yeah.
I'll play it so the recording can catch it. But the one thing we chatted about earlier in this week while we were getting organized for the chat was how the emotes for the Titans, and they're good emotes, but none of them have got the Titan Warhorn, which is just so like, I want that. I want that Warhorn sound so I can just blast it and intimidate at least once. And granted, I play the game with my sound off, so I wouldn't hear it. But I want to hear something like this.
I heard it. I stole it for my Wrath and Glory campaign because I needed a good Titan horn, but everyone I found was just the Reapers from Mass Effect.
It's just, I just want to make that. I want to make that noise. It's just that monstrous. It's what it is it's one part Celtic Warhorn, one part Godzilla, and one part didgeridoo. And then mixed and amplified as I see
I like
fit.
the didgeridoo part there.
I still think that they should release a special alternate art for one of the Traitor Legios that's a flames paint job, and it plays La Cucaracha as your horn.
I mean, you have like those books when they write about the chaos, like, they blare their horn, they announce Titan death, and that's pretty epic. We've never had that.
That's the scope, and it's like, you think about how it feels to be the little infantry, just hear this and see this and start losing your goddamn mind.
Yeah, the closest thing we have is Mandragorax focusing its searchlight on you. And if you actually have Mandragorax, you listen to the emotes, there are 3 sounds shared by 6 emotes, so it's not like there's a whole lot of variety there.
You know what they're missing? They're missing the Titan pulses that they do to find things.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The pulses that shatter glass the minute they activate. Like, that could be a loud blaring noise of like things shaking instead of like focusing your spotlights. That'd be cool.
Speaking of the Titan pulses, have you guys gotten premium cards at all for either of the new factions? Any thoughts on
I've seen
those?
what they look like, but I
haven't yet, but I will.
I got
Geyser Ray does not look good with it.
I got one from both. Well, I think in general Warlords don't look good as much as you would think because their stats cover up the stuff. The Loyalist one looks better because the animation actually looks like it's animated. You've got a shield and like some crackling energy. The Traitor one is very lackluster. It's just it's the inverse of the Loyalist, but there's not like, you don't see any sort of pulse or energy, or it just looks very flat, doesn't look animated. I just thought I'd mention that because I was like looking at them and like, yeah, this for a premium, the Traitor one is just not as good as the Loyalist one. So
I'm looking at it right now on like a computer monitor, and it does pulse a little bit, but there's no way I'd be able to see that on my phone.
Yeah.
Like,
and there are a couple other ones that have got like very lackluster premiums. I think like Orphans of War is one. For me, I like it's.
Don't 2 of them have the exact same one minus an emblem as the Death Guard and Blood Angels?
Death Guard and Blood Angels, they just changed the coloring. Yeah, from
blood and green blood.
Yes. Well, it's
blood and the goop.
Sludge and Batai.
It's just no. Don't try to make it fancy. It's blood and it's D&D acid.
Acid, I'll take D&D acid. Yeah. Well, when you guys aren't playing Legions, what is it that you do?
I'll let everyone else go before I rant about my D&D stuff. I'm a nerd.
I think we're
we're all nerds.
We're all nerds. Yeah, it's basically a requirement to liking 40K.
You have to be willing to accept the extreme campiness and over the top stuff, and you got to be a little nerdy
and the grim derp.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of strategy games in general. I've actually, speaking of 40k games, I've been playing Warhammer 40k Battle Sector, and I highly recommend it.
That one, I feel like, got a lot better after its update in DLC. Because on launch, it was just Blood Angels and Tyranids, and it played like the tabletop.
Yeah, I never played it before then. But the current state of it is a good game. I play a lot of Grand Strategy, Europa Universalis, Hearts of Iron, and I'm a big, very interested in game design in general. At some point, I've actually got all the art work done. I just got to do a bunch of other stuff, and I will be releasing a tabletop game at some point in probably the next year or so.
Oh shit! Very cool, man. You have to ping me when you do.
Sure, I will advertise heavily.
Yeah, I'm a big nerd gamer. I've been getting back into MTG with my friends a bit. I play tabletop, but not.
Are you excited for the Commander decks?
Yes and no. I don't want to do the whole rant now, but I'm very angry that Abaddon is not 5 colors. Like, he should be all 5 colors. It's just the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm excited for that. I've been playing Commander with my friends, and I play a bit of tabletop Underworlds and Kill Team, and haven't been doing much other video games lately besides Legions. Been super busy with work, but I want to get back into Diablo 3 and pay attention to whenever Diablo 4 comes, and I know Diablo Immortal released, and I have not even started yet, so I am behind.
Do you have a phone?
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't even recommend starting.
Man,
I'm gonna go on a rant about the pay to win part on that. There's an item you can roll for loot, and it tells you if you buy 3 with real money, you get it. The minute you buy it, and it says nowhere else in game, 7 more pop-ups appear that say if you want the real loot, you have to buy these. It is
without even getting
I was
into Immortal.
So I guess I'm glad I didn't jump into it. But
I bought the Diablo 2 remastered last year, and that was really fun because I really liked Diablo 2. I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go back and play it. I beat it again with a different class, and it was fun. And then I've just had, and it's not necessarily game. I mean, they had some issues with the server, and they were wait times, and that was becoming annoying. So I stopped playing for like a couple weeks, and I went to go back to log in, and the Battle.net was giving me a hard time, and I could not get restored to Battle.net, so I installed it, and I've just sworn off Blizzard games. I can't do it anymore. Like, I was like, you know what? I gave it a chance. I enjoyed the time I spent with it again, but it can look all the looks that it wants. I can't do it again. I'll play a dozen other games before I play a Blizzard game. Which is a shame, because they used to be like the pinnacles, like the Blizzard
good,
game.
I mean, untold hours of my teenage years and childhood poured into Warcraft and Starcraft and WoW.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to know. I don't want to go into WoW and hit /played on my original character and see something like, man, I could be a genius at something. I could be a master of something. Instead, I have some nice purple pixels. And not even as many as I should.
Yep. Honestly, I've been pretty disappointed with Blizzard lately, too. Just like Overwatch 2 looks like Overwatch 1.
Oh, it is not good either. It is Overwatch 1, but we removed 1 player on every team.
Yeah. So, like, why would I pay money for the same game again? I wouldn't.
Plot twist.
That's what they get your money, though. That's what they want. That's all they want. There used to be a time, and granted, I just make it sound like it's really good. I'm sure it was pretty cutthroat even back then, but we never saw it. But there was a time when those game companies were doing their stuff and getting started, and there was the spirit about getting the game out there and entertain players. And just more and more, it doesn't ever seem like that's really what it is anymore. It's more like
The crazy thing is, there used to be, like, if you told me that a game made by X was coming out, whatever brand, I would know, oh yeah, that's going to be great. If you said Westwood Studios is coming out with a new game, and I'd be like, hell yeah, I'm ready for the next Westwood Studios game. But there's no company left that's like that. There's some indie game developers who I'm a little bit like that with, but no major company.
But more often than not, you won't hear much about indie game developers till it's like a month before the game's out.
Yeah.
I had a very surreal conversation with
a mixture of my players for D&D and some just friends I've had since we've grown up. And it was, is anyone excited for any games recently? And we all paused thinking there was none that we could think of that were coming out. We had to go through, this was before Skulls, because now Skulls has at least given me some things to be excited for. But no, it's just like, most game companies are either dead or dying that were big, or they're just cash grabs. Half of them were like creepy fucking sexual assault fiascos, which was not good either.
That's not even...
That was like half the game companies that were around at the time that happened.
Yeah.
My favorite was Activision says that there is no sexual harassment happening within its own studios. It's like, yes.
Have you watched Avatar: Last Airbender?
Yes.
There is no war within the walls.
It's just, hey. My favorite is, we've investigated ourselves and found ourselves innocent of any wrongdoing. Next conversation. You're like, all right. I vibe with that, I guess.
Although I do find it kind of weird that at the same time all these other studios are going downhill, EA has gotten a little better. Like, they're not good. Don't get me wrong.
Well, I mean, to be fair, they're still making the infinite money cash cows at our sports games.
Right, and they're still not. You know, I would still be upset if somebody that I did like decided to go work for EA instead. But compared to other companies, EA looks kind of good now. Whereas back in the day, they were the poster child for what not to do as a game developer.
Well, yeah, I guess if you hit the bottom of the barrel, the slime that's an inch above looks prettier.
Yeah, basically.
All right, I guess
all this talk makes me depressed. I will say this. I mean, I got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge yesterday. I'm excited about that. That's.
Have you had time to play it yet?
I am playing it later tonight, I think, or tomorrow. Oh, you know what? Tomorrow's Father's Day. I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want. I'm gonna play some Ninja Turtles. I'm gonna turtle up, baby. Turtle power.
Happy Father's Day, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a game that I've looked forward to, but I don't think that's. I don't know if that's independent or not. It is the love letter to the '90s Turtles arcade experience, and you know what? That's enough for me. I'm easy to please. I mean, shit. I play Legions. I've got to be right.
Yeah. Hey, it's still better than Hearthstone.
There you go. That's true. There's
a lot of people complain about the balance, but there's others.
Yeah. Just the fact that I can play my cards is puts it miles ahead of everything else.
Well, I think that sometimes people need to know or have seen how bad it can really be. Sometimes people get lost, like, oh, this is the worst it's ever been. Like, nah, it's been worse. Believe me, the game has been worse, and it'll get better, and things get tweaked. This happens every time we have a new expansion, so there's no surprise. Things will change, new things will come out, we'll adjust what we have to adjust that has become more powerful. When they don't do that anymore, that'll be a different story, and then people will be playing Warforged most likely, and that won't be until mid-2023, I imagine. So we've got a long ways to go.
I'm looking forward to that, though.
Yeah.
It's time to get orky.
Yeah. Well, the Xenos will be pretty interesting. I just don't want it to be a reskin, like a complete carbon copy. That would be disappointing.
I feel like there are a lot of things that it inherently will prevent it from being one. So, like, you can't have a card that like copies cards in other players' hands, or if you did, it would be super stupid. How do I have this orc as
right
as the Space Marines?
That's true.
How did I play that?
Well, I'd argue currently in our game, a lot of those don't make sense either. Like, how am I some random salamander currently attacking this man with the pride of the Emperor?
Well, how can the Custodes or the Sisters play with demons?
You can't really use logic in that case, because that would never work in a card game.
I think
I do think it would be a little more egregious given that every faction. Well, like not like from a lore standpoint.
I only say that because Sisters of Silence can run around with demons. They're kind of the antithesis. What is the word?
Antithesis. Yes.
Yeah, two demons because of their constant get the fuck away from me aura.
Yeah.
I still got my D&D campaign where the parties try to survive in the end of the world. They've currently ran into Fox Russia and are currently wanted because they've assassinated like 3 kings up to this point by accident, and they've just walked into a kingdom. So we're going to see how this goes. So yeah.
Cool.
Good times all around.
All right.
I have a party of semi-murder hobos.
So
All that good fun.
basically every D&D game.
Every D&D
Yeah.
game.
Well, they're good people. They've never murdered a merchant so far, but the minute they think someone's slightly not a good guy, the rogue attempts to kill him because he's a paragon of justice while simultaneously being a rogue. And then the paladin who would normally stop that is an Oaths of Conquest paladin, so his ruling on it is, I'm cool with that. So it just leads to them, the Oaths of Conquest paladin, on the endless quest to obtain slaves while every other member of the party stops him except the warlock. It's pretty great. My players are awful. 10 out of 10.
Well, that's how it's supposed to be.
Pretty much, yeah.
Normal D&D game.
Normal D&D games are a shit show.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
All
Same
right.
old, same old.
Well, do you guys got anything to plug?
Well, when my game's closer to completion, I'll let you know about it. But it's not close enough yet.
All right.
That'll be interesting.
Well, if I make Team US, everybody watch, because maybe I will start streaming. Or I'll get someone else to cast the games. I don't know.
Actually, I should probably plug my stream, shouldn't I? I haven't streamed in a long time because I got sick. I am on Twitch. I am Lord Sea Slug on Twitch.
Cool.
Lord of Sea Slugs, rather. Twitch TV / Lord of Sea Slugs.
I guess there are worse things to be lords of.
Hey, being a lord is being a lord.
Facts.
Even if it's the genital jousting creatures.
Right. I mean,
Okay.
Well, yeah, that's how they reproduce. Look that up.
It's true.
don't look it up. Don't look it up. To the audience.
Don't worry.
Yeah. Don't type
Important
that in.
warning.
Don't type that in.
Okay,
Important
maybe.
warning.
Okay.
All listeners, don't look it up.
Use very specific words when you look it up. You can't just Google the word genital jousting and find what I'm talking about, because then you'll be led down.
I don't think I want to find what you're talking about, man.
But no, from a biology student, a lot of flatworm-esque creatures reproduce by they're all males until they get into a literal dick fight, and then the loser becomes a female. That is not a joke. That's how flatworms do it, and a lot of sea slugs. This is your story time with Axel.
Nice. Thank
You're
you.
all welcome. You are all
I'd like
welcome.
to apologize for the preceding conversation.
I would like to double down on it. I guess it's my turn for a shout out. I'm going to do the usual. Drew Lee Clark on Instagram. That's my boy Dorn. Does beautiful art. Great guy.
Cool.
Then you know what? I never thought I'd ever see the day I do this, but I'm going to have to give a shout out to Diamond for beating all records for events.
Yes.
This last one.
Yeah.
There's been
that is a
claims of
shout-out.
other records, but every time they talk about the claims, they go, "Oh, but I deleted all proof of it."
No,
you're like,
that
okay.
doesn't exist.
No,
Just
he
trust
went
me.
way high. My personal record is like 32K.
Well, there was a user, I won't name names because we all know who he is, claimed that someone hit like 85,000,
No way.
but all proof against it was deleted, so you can't see it, but you're going to
Yes,
take my word on it.
that's all proof.
Which
doesn't
I went,
exist.
yeah, no.
No, I mean, props to Diamond.
Absolutely.
Definitely for this event.
73,000. That's
and not just that's the important thing. It's not just 73,000. It's 73,000 in a Titan event. That
And
that
slow
in
matches.
of itself was pretty grindy. I mean, he had a rhythm down. He knew what he was doing. Good, and just watched him go. That was pretty cool. So yeah, definitely shout out to Diamond.
Shout out to
'cause
Diamond.
That was
if
pretty
he ever comes back on, please don't play a game in the background again.
But yeah,
Shout out to that World Cup episode.
yes, yeah, that's a pretty cool feat to kind of be up in there. And I think during the course of that the last couple of weeks, there was a couple other people that kind of took eye to the discussion as far as like players who have scored in the 40K club. Which I think I got a couple PMs from folks that just wanted to let me know that they had screenshots as well to show, not just to say that they did it. So it was kind of cool. There are a couple other people who may not be on Discord as often, but they do pay attention to that. So the 40K club, for those who don't know, is if you have scored more than 40K or more event points in a single event, and it's, I won't say super elite. It's not super elite, but it is a very small club. As far as I've got, I think 7 or 8 names on it now that I know of, that I can vouch for, that I've seen the scores or I've seen the screenshots for, or I've recorded on my end. But if there's others out there, feel free to hit me up. Let me know. Join the 40K club, or if you get to that point and you're up that high, feel free to boast and brag about it. That's a really cool achievement.
I mean,
you should
you
be
may
proud.
as well.
That's a lot of work that you're putting
Yeah,
It's
into
not
it.
easy to get up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, and most importantly, if you did it yourself.
And hey, if you ever get up there and get that mystical screenshot of the 83K or whatever it was, I want to see it. Because I'm doubting its existence, but I want to see it.
Doesn't exist, trust me. So with all that said, I'll go ahead and plug that, but I'm also going to plug deck slots because, as I mentioned earlier, there are not enough deck slots for me to even play any of the Titans. I had to delete. I have got like one slot at the very, very end after my Imperial Fists. I have no Sisters of Silence, no Agents of the Sigilate. I just got one Titan there, and I had to delete my Loyalist Titan to play my Dice IRA. That so, and when
As it should be.
and it doesn't even.
Because
Yeah, I mean,
IRA deletes Loyalist Titans.
it's so
That's why it's
powerful.
had to be made.
But that doesn't even count. Like, I don't even have a deck made for what's his face, the Mossad. I don't. I had to. If I
How
make a
dare
deck for
you.
Mossad, then I have to delete Dorn, and I don't want to do that. So
How dare you treat Clint Eastwood like
this
that?
is the
Dorn
so,
kind of sucks though. So
I won't deny
Hey,
it. But it's a premium deck, so I like the shiny gold premium deck slot.
Yeah.
But yeah, we
Also,
need
Fister
like
from
three
Blue
rows,
too, yeah.
3 rows of deck slots. Because by the time you hear this, next week is going to be Wave 3 of Titan Death expansion, and then that's going to be bringing us new cards and warlords for Custodes, Agents of the Sigilate, Orphans of War, Night Houses, and surprise, I confirmed Defenders of Caliban will not be getting a 5th warlord or new cards. Matt. And I was
Fuck that noise. Also, where is Sheed? I want Sheed.
Yeah, Sheed, Garad, and somebody from the Dark Angels are still not added to the game. But no, I confirmed Defenders of Caliban are not going to be included in this Titan Death expansion, which I thought was very interesting, given the fact that they were added to the game prior to Agents of the Sigilate and Sisters of Silence. I don't know if
say why?
Yeah, they did not say why. The only thing I can think is the next expansion that we will get, either the end of 2022 or early 2023, maybe will focus not heavily on Caliban, but kind of in that area realm, and maybe we'll get some other stuff, and that would be a reason for us to get cards for them then. But it doesn't make sense to me. I've done the math, and we should be getting cards for them, but the fact that we're not boggles my mind.
Well, we're getting new Night Houses cards, and they're the same expansion.
Expansion.
So maybe we'll get like the Scouring or the post-heresy confrontation, but I doubt it because that's after everything's done.
Right. We still have the Emperor to add. He's got enough voice lines or voice responses in the game. That's going to happen at some point, whether you like it or not.
Oh, I don't know.
It's going to happen. It's going to be. And listen, if we have Dice IRA, we're going to have the Emperor. Like, let's be real. We got Horus. We're going to get the Emperor.
No, you're right. I'm just like the Emperor should be bigger than the setting. Like Dice IRA is a character in books,
Listen,
Iron.
the difference is one of these guys is dead. Okay, the Emperor he may be a husk, but he's alive. Dice Ray dies, so fuck that Titan.
Yeah.
You take that back.
I will not take that back. He dies like a chump during I think right before the 13th Black Crusade.
It's during the 13th Black Crusade, and it's not like a chump. He murder like a bunch of Titans, and then it's a mutual kill with an enemy warlord.
Do they do the samurai thing where they both run at each other in a field?
No, it's
and then both kind of stand still and then slump over.
The first their biggest Titan princeps goes nuts for the glory. He's like, I'm gonna kill it, and he breaks formation and abandons the infantry he's supposed to be supporting, and he runs in to fight it, and he's thinks he's gonna win, but he can't, and he self-destructs his reactor in its face.
Yep. And then another runs up with a power quad.
No. You're missing it. This is separated by a long time, and then there's more battles, and Dice IRA is killing its way through other Titans, the remainder of the maniple of that guy. And then he runs up and through the weakened armor that's still damaged from the first reactor explosion. sticks its power claw in and causes a meltdown and dies a ray, and like they both
and it's
die.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good way to go.
He gets what he deserves. He fucking got murdered. If only the only thing that'd make me happy is if it was Legio Metallica that did it.
It sounds
my boys.
pretty Titanic.
Well,
so I'll
it's
take
pretty
your word
cool.
for it.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, I mean, we never actually really get background on the princeps of the Aza Ray.
During 40k or 30k?
Either.
Well, yeah, we get his name.
We don't get like characters. Like the princeps of Nuntio is like a character.
Yeah. Although to be fair, I think I vented over Titan Death, the book, last episode.
It's awful.
And that
it's not great.
No, but I mean that book spends a lot of time explaining the character of the princeps for Nuntio, and such a waste of reading time.
It could have been Titan combat, but instead it taught me Titan politics.
Let me tell you this: if you think Titan Death expansion is like, oh man, what have they done to this game, or oh man, Titans are so horrific, I hate fighting Titans, read that book, and you'll
feel the same, but about a book.
You'll be like, I hate reading. Why did they do just the pacing of where that was located in the series? Dislike hard. Anyways, total diatribe, way off the topic. We've gone the distance over the first impressions with the Traitor Titans. I'm sure we'll see some changes and some adjustments, just as we did with the Loyalists. Surprise! I believe if you listen back 2 weeks ago, I'm pretty sure I said the same thing about the Loyalists. Next week, we're going to be talking with Pleasant Kenobi. I think we're going to be talking about the Mechanicum neutral card pool. So that should be pretty fun. So tune into that. Also, coming up in a couple weeks, I want to say about 3 weeks, we're going to be doing a special live Twitch episode over on Twitch, Scuff_D on Twitch. And that's going to be open up for chat. Just kind of an open general ask anything. Discussion, respond to viewer questions, kind of do a different sort of format, kind of test out, see how that goes. So if you haven't, check that out. I'm not on Twitch the last couple of weeks, but I'm trying to get back on there at least once or twice a week and just play stuff. I don't just play Legions, I play other stuff over there too. But we're going to do that episode and try to get that set up so that it works out.
Ninja Turtle game.
Oh, I'll stream that for sure. So yeah, that's what we got going on. So, guys, I want to thank you for joining us tonight, making the time.
It was fun.
Thanks for having me, Scuff.
Thank you. It was fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna end it with the Warhorn because it's badass.
Do it.
I mean, yeah, it's a requirement.
As you should.
Yes.
That's basically it.
Bye.
Bye.
It ends here.
This has been another episode of the Warp Chatter Podcast. Thank you for listening.
I can't help but appreciate your talents.
It was inspiring.
I need some